Welcome to another edition of Let the Brothers Speak. I'm your host, Big C the Chef.
It's your boy Appleberry, Apple Juice in the house.
How y'all doing? This is Mike Wells. Hope y'all had a great week.
Yo, Deshaun Dave.
All right, that's everybody. It's minus Migo, your boy Migo. He's out celebrating his birthday today, so he won't be joining us tonight. Give a toast up. Let's give a toast up to your boy.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, bro.
Migo.
Enjoy yourself. Behave yourself. Anyway, so what's going on? I heard you got something you want to get off your chest, brother.
Yes,
Deshaun?
sir. Yes, sir. I got something I need to get off my chest. Let's have a truckload to get off my chest. It's heavy.
Right.
Yeah, what I need to get off my chest is the double standard for us with children, the double standard between our sons and our daughters. The double standard of some things that might not that's not okay for our sons, that it's okay for our daughters, and vice versa, and things of that nature. So I see it happening a lot in my community and in society as well. Some people may say it's okay. Some people might disagree and say it's not okay, but I do see it a lot.
I mean, as far as I've seen as a double standards, I never really tried to carry mine with double standards. In my previous marriage, I had a son and a daughter, but I treated my son and daughter the same way, same rules. Expect you to be home at a certain time, especially during school, and then on the weekends, even then, a certain time. I don't expect the boy to hang out any later than I expected that girl to hang out. You know, same thing. If my current marriage, my daughters, we held the same standard. You know, there's always, there's nothing really going on that's good after a certain time. And I'm not going to let my daughters be out there learning the guy that used to be me back in the day, because that was me hanging out late at night, and I know they the good late at night.
On the prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point right there, because I think as far as men, like, we have this either inclination or this thought of how we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And because of how we used to be, we were really overprotective of those girls, I think you mentioned this earlier. The only thing different between Adam and Eve, my grandfather, me, and you talking about maybe your son, is the technology in which we were using and trying to get into those pants.
Right.
The
Yeah,
technology.
see, nowadays they got Snapchat and Instagram and what is that? Threads and Facebook. We didn't have that. We had cell phones and pages, and before that, your mama and daddy had a telephone if they were lucky, and before that, Adam and Eve, all he had was whoa.
Whoa.
That's straight up whoa. So yeah, when you look at it from that perspective, I think society and just us in general, there are going to be some double standards. But when you have those double standards, I think what we have to do is like try to recognize those things, and as you said, try to set those standards to be the same across the board. Now, of course, there's going to be some things, in my opinion, that there are going to be some double standards on, right? So, for instance, I don't want my little girl changing no oil. That's just me personally. I just don't want her out there doing that. I'm going to do that for her, right? That's just me personally. I know plenty of women that know how to change oils and fix tires and things of that nature. I just don't want her doing that. I want to open the door for my wife. I want to open the door for my daughter. I want to show her those things, right? I want to ensure that she knows how a man's supposed to treat her, right? So I take her places, right? So she's not impressed by somebody just taking her somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I spend time with her and take her to the park and things of that nature, right? Same thing I do for my son, right? We go different places together because I don't want his friends to be able to influence him in certain ways and things of that nature. So put him up on game, so to speak, from my perspective. Is my perspective the only in the right way? I'm not going to say that, but this is what I believe I should be instilling into my kids, these values, these morals, purpose in life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So when you, in any society, you're going to have double standards, right? Because I'm one of those people as well. I believe everything is made up, right? When you look at democracy, it's made up. Somebody had to make this up. It came from somewhere, right? So those standards that we have on each other and on our kids, they're made up in some type of way, in my opinion. So when things are made up, we have the opportunity to make things up ourselves as well and create new traditions and new pathways that our kids and even us can advance into different ways in life.
Yeah. I mean, I thoroughly understand that, because even with me, I used to have the daddy-daughter date time. So I take my daughter out, go places, go to the movies. My next youngest, I've gotten a chance to take her out and spend some time with her. The older two, they were, older and didn't really need me for nothing. So it was like, I didn't get that chance with them, but I have no problem saying, hey, my door's open. Y'all want to go spend some time? Here we go. But I did teach my daughter, even some things like checking to see if our alternator's working right, checking to see if the battery's working right. I was going to teach her how to change her oil, but she didn't need it. She went and got an oil change. But I have no problem in also showing her the men's side of things, just like, when I did with my son. It was like, hey, you're going to learn how to cook. You're going to learn how to clean.
Wash those dishes.
Yeah,
Wash
because
those clothes.
my thought is this. You're going to be a single man at one point, and mama ain't coming over to wash your dishes and wash your clothes. So you're going to learn how to do these things. My mama did it to me. She taught me how to cook. I remember at 5 years old making breakfast. Yeah. 7 years old, starting to learn how to make dinners. So,
I mean, if you know how to read, you can follow a cookbook.
Yeah.
Well, so you got YouTube University too.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things that, I want them to be, have that duplicity where they can learn how to be the masculine side, but also the feminine side. Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, men aren't supposed to cry. Jesus wept, didn't he?
Right.
So we can get a little vulnerable. You can open up and be more than that hard candy show, and show that you got that little sweetness on the inside, that you can be compassionate for somebody, have empathy for somebody. Animals teach us many times how to be more human than we do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So at that point, as far as your son, do you pour more of that into him? You say straight across the board, do you pour the same amount of your son as in your daughter?
Absolutely. My thought was, we used to go out and play paintball and things like that, but I also was trying to teach him how to cook, some of those things that I learned how to do. Clean up. It doesn't always require a woman to do that. That's not a woman's job. Just like I had the girl out there mowing the lawn. It was like, why you have it's like, because she needs to learn these things. Because if she's single and she becomes a homeowner, she may not have the money to be able to afford lawn service. She may have to go out there and mow that lawn herself.
Right. And I believe in it. I have daughters. My daughter, she comes out there, she gets up under the truck, and she's learned how to change oil, and the steps needed to change a tire, and this as well as my son. So, but there's no way I'm pouring as much of the compassionate side into my son as I am to my daughter.
Well, I think, I don't mean to cut you out, but I think like conversations like this help in those situations, right? And what I mean by that is this, is like, when you say there's no way I'm pouring it in, that's a realization that you're coming to at this particular point, that maybe I do need to put some more effort into that side of it, and vice versa. So anytime that a dilemma comes up or arises, we as human beings have a choice that we can make. We can say, I'm not doing this, or I can look at it as I am going to do this a little bit more, right? And all it takes is like just 10% more effort one day, 10% more effort another day. Being cognizant of it is the first step. I have this thing that I do with teachers, and I always tell them first, before we're able to move on and complete a goal, we have to identify the problem, right? Once we identify the problem, right, we have to develop a plan. Once we develop that plan, we have to practice the plan, and then we try to generalize that plan, right? So by you saying this is not happening, in my estimation, is like you're ready to move to the next step, if that makes sense.
Because you've identified it.
Because you've identified that, right? And so once you've identified those things, then you can move forward. A lot of times we get stuck in identification, though. We get stuck there.
Yeah.
Like, I see it. I see it, but we never go to developing the plan to do those things. So I think you make a very good point, Brother Day. Like once you identify those things and say them out loud, then we can move forward to breaking down some of those stereotypes or even double standards, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, it makes sense. Question: a little girl falls off her bike, a little boy falls off her bike. Do you handle those situations? Do you handle those falls the same way?
Can I go?
Go ahead.
Absolutely, yes. I'm not necessarily the parent that runs when somebody get hurt or anything of that nature and yells and screams at things of that nature, because again, we build things up, if that makes sense, right? So if I go and yell and scream or, oh, baby, you okay? Right. The first thing they're going to recognize is that when I do this, then if I give this out a cry, then I'm going to get this certain type of attention, right? Behavior one-on-one, right? It's going to feed the need, right? So therefore, if my son hit his toe or drop something, or if my daughter do it, I'm walking real slow to it because I want to see how they're going to respond to it, right? Which may be different from somebody else. Somebody else may run over there, hug them real hard, things of that nature, right? Grab them and squeeze them, and they actually hurt them more than when they fell, right? Because they running over there doing those things. So I kind of stand back and see what this person is going to respond to, whether that's a baby. One, I give you this and I pass it. One of the coolest things I ever seen with my daughter is this. I believe, this is just my belief, right? I believe that my daughter is more athletic than my son. I just believe that, right? I've been an athlete all my life, but I've seen this, right? Me and her was laying in the bed, right? And when we were laying in the bed, for some reason, it looks like she basically ends up falling out of the bed, but she falls backwards where her head is coming toward the ground. So in that instance, because this is a baby, like 1 or 2, I was like, oh Lord, like what is happening, right?
Right.
But when she fell out the bed, she kind of flipped and landed on her feet and then ran out the room. I was like, she cold. I was like, she cold. Now I've had that same kind of experience with my son. He just boom. right. Same kind of experience. Same about age and things of that nature, right? But you never know, right? You never know. I would thought my son would be, I would think that, right? Because he grew up kind of seeing me play basketball and things of that nature. He started off doing that. And I don't try to push it on him because he doesn't really do it anymore, but unless he really wants to. But her, she's just an athletic being. Like, and she don't even know it. Like, she can just move here, move there. She fall. Yeah, very nimble, you know.
How old is she?
9 now.
She runs. Okay.
She's 9 now, but when she was 1, she did that. I was like, oh yeah, you one of them ones.
Yeah,
yeah, you one of them ones.
Right.
Like, it just took off. So when you look at it from that perspective, if you start doing things like giving more attention to the girl, more attention to the boy based on athletic ability, whatever it is, you may start creating an imbalance, right? And then you also create this thing too. You can create some jealousy among siblings, right? When you're doing some of those things, like when I'm saying, if I run over her to the girl every time and give her a hug when she fall, and I tell the boy, man, get up, ain't nothing wrong with you, right? So I'll pass it.
Yeah, me, I'm gonna say I'm the one that's gonna try to, especially if they're crying, I'm gonna try to laugh and make it seem like, oh, it was funny, and then it's amazing when they think that, oh, it's funny. The crying stops, they start to laugh and act like it ain't no big deal. So the boy, I do the same thing as I would with the girl. I'll be like, just laughing, that's funny, and then laugh, and then they get up and they start smiling and then run off. They act like nothing ever hurt them. Now if they're cut and hurt, you know, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take my time, but I'm not going to just jump up because the girl fell or the boy fell, right? Maybe that's sort of the coach in me is like, okay. My football coach would spit on it and rub it.
Right.
I'm just gonna look at you and go, okay. Like Kevin Hart said, hey. I'm gonna look at you like, you good? And if they start crying, then I'm gonna try to laugh and joke. But if they're bleeding, okay, I'm gonna slowly get up, put my stuff down, and then walk over there because I don't want them to think hey, this is an emergency. Every time they fall down, I need your help. I'm gonna try to laugh it off more than anything so that they don't think, okay, I need them for something. Sometimes you got to let them get up on their own, dust themselves off, do whatever they got to do and keep going.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, you know what? I want to say something here. Now my father, I came up with a father who was kind of like that. Okay. When I was coming up, if I fail or whatever, well, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. That was his favorite word, his favorite saying. Oh, you'll be all right.
Right.
You know, I tried to play sick to get out of school. Get your butt on up. You'll be all right. You know, I was trying to get out of doing this. Go ahead. You'll be all right. You know, so now in my adult life, I do that a lot. I'll be all right.
Mhm.
I'll be all right. I'll be all right. But I do it a lot to a point to where as like, you know, something's really wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll be all right. But then I go to the doctor, you're not gonna be all right. You know, and you know, at some point you have to know that point when tell them, okay, you're not gonna be all right this time.
Yeah.
You need to go and get this hug. You need this affection. You need this fatherly advice. You need this motherly advice, whatever. So, because then you'll end up like me. You know, everything is all right. Everything I'll be all right. And for the most part, everything do be all right.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
I will, especially the younger two. They've gone through some stuff, and I'll just sit there, just pull them close to me, let them go ahead and cry. You know, get it out, because I don't try to separate stepchildren, biological children, boy, girl. Y'all are my children. Gonna love you the same. So it means that, you know, sometimes I gotta learn that, okay, I see that there's something going on. Come on over here. Lay your head on my shoulder. I ain't even gonna ask you no questions. I know what you need.
I think you all are hitting a couple of nails right on the head. Something that just resonated with me is, especially what Brother Chris was just talking about, was our consistency in our response as parents, right? And a lot of times, I won't say a lot of times, but possibly there needs to be some diversity in our responses, right? And what I mean by that is, like you were saying about the all right, you are right, you are right, you are right. Now that does show some stability and things of that nature. That does give kids, you know, this sense of this person is always here. But what about that diversity in it? So I think it's very important for us to be able to show our kids that we are able to go through those different feelings and emotions and things of that nature as well. I know my kids kind of always see me as this stoic person. You know, I can't, and also the humorous parent as well. You know, I always want to make them laugh and things of that nature, but they do need to see me be vulnerable as well. They need to see me deal with, you know, some pain and things of that nature, because who else better to learn that from and to be able to explain that from? Because the world, I don't think is going to explain it the way that we would.
right.
You know, with that being your kid, if that makes sense. Look like you got something on your heart, brother.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. Okay. And I think that diversity in our response, right? So being able to show that we can laugh, cry, have fun, be serious, right? Be able to have an intellectual conversation, be able to have a stupid conversation, right? Be able to meet them on their levels. And I'll say this and I'll pass it. My son and my daughter will come to me and my wife and say, hey, it's either daddy daughter time or mama daughter time or daddy son time or mama and son time. And so what they're really saying is that we need some time with you by ourselves, because we want to tap into that relationship. And I think the biggest thing that people miss out the word relationship is that first piece is relate. And when you talk about relate, it's not necessarily always I have to agree with you, but can I relate to you? So my son watches, and y'all probably watch some of this, some anime. And I'm not really prone to anime, but he put me on some anime and I like loved it. So much now I'm like watching the whole season and about to get the second season, things of that nature. But he put me on it, and now he typically plays his game a lot. But when I'm watching it, nope, he down there right with me.
Mhm.
Right. And we kind of bond and we talking about these things. And then some of the things that I see, I can relate this information to him. He get to see me in a different light. Same thing with my daughter. Right. Daddy, come on up here and make this with me. Come on, let's dance. Let's do this. You know, let's go here. Right. And giving them a chance to tap into their passions. And when they see you are tapping into their passions with them, they just light up. Right. And they see that this world can be even more fun. And you know, one thing I want to make sure that all kids have is a passion and a dream, right? And then I don't want to put that light out on them. I want to be the person that, you know, pushes them toward that.
Stokes that fire continuously.
Right.
I did that with my daughter. My daughter was in a lot of AP classes, and she was like, "Daddy, I want to act." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "But that means that I'm not going to be able to do all these AP classes because it's going to kill me because I got to practice after school and stuff like that." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll let you get rid of one or two of them." But I said, just like Matthew McConaughey's dad said, don't half-ass it. If you're going to do it wholeheartedly. Because that's one thing that I think every parent wants to do. We want to support our kids, but we don't want to see our kids just take that dream and go, okay, I'm just going to play around with it. You know, I know that your parents would, if you said, hey, I like playing basketball, but I'm not going to be serious with it now that it's getting close to me making a career of it, then they would have been like, wow, we wasted all that time and everything. But then you went even above that because you went and studied. And I'm gonna commend you on that, bro. To go to get your doctorate. I know a few people that have gotten their doctorates. I was one of those, okay, college is fun and it's getting too fun, but this ain't for me. And I just left it alone.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. What about the younger parents? The parents who started having kids at 17, who don't know that to be as attentive and pointing at their children the right way and came up and learned the wrong way.
I think it's always about community. I've said this many a times, and I love that African phrase Ubuntu, which is I am because we are, right? And you know, it takes a village, they say, to raise a child. But what about this perspective? It takes a village to raise a village.
Absolutely.
Right. The community takes care of the community, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna say this to kind of throw a little retort to your question there.
Okay.
There is nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Not a thing.
Nothing new under the sun. So when you go back, let's say 100 years, you had people having babies probably even younger than that, 12, 13 years old.
Right.
Probably not even out of their own wanting to. Probably have some other things that we'll probably get into, you know, during times of slavery and things of that nature, doing some things that probably was inhumane and things of that nature. But people have been having kids since time has started.
Right.
What was the difference? Do you think those kids knew having a kid at 12 or 13 how to parent? No, it was the community, right? But also they had responsibilities that they had to take care of, right? And in a community, if I'm having a child and I'm 12 or 13, and this is a community, maybe I do have mother or grandmother taking care of the kid and teaching them things, but I am also contributing to this community by going out and work, gathering food, things of that nature, bringing this information back so that the community can stay strong. And mom and dad is also teaching me how to parent, right? It's not so much like how we see it now, even though we still have remnants of that in our communities. We look at it sometimes like it's a bad thing when it could be a good thing, because what we end up doing instead of, we talked about this a little bit earlier when we talk about discipline, not doing the teach part of it, just doing the whooping part of it. But when you get to just dropping the kids off and leaving them with grandmama, like that's not the intent right there, right?
Right.
But the intent is that I should be learning something from grandmama and mama that I can bring back to my household. And now that I can bring those things back to my household, I can grow. So I think from us, especially like from a young perspective, because I've been there, right? A lot of times we don't want to hear what those other people are saying.
Right.
Right. A lot of times we don't want to hear those things. And I can admit that. Like, I don't want to hear the way you talking about I should be parenting and this, that, and the other. I even made some songs about it. right. I even made some songs about it. But when you really look at it, who am I going to get that perspective from? Right? Because there's books on it, but those books on parenting, right? You got to go
wisdom
through
always
it.
comes from people that know you best.
Right. But you have grandma, you say drop them off for grandma or mother. You have grandma or mother who only know the double standard way. Who only know to tell the boy, oh, you'll be all right. Or to rush over and pamper the daughter.
Yeah.
At that point, you got young people who don't know, the right what should be the right way to do it.
Right. And I would always tell people this is like, and I think you mentioned this before. You said this quote before, or maybe Amigo said it, or Chris, maybe somebody said it, but doing the same thing over and over is what? Insanity. Right? Yeah. So when is the realization for that person that I got to do something different?
Right. It has to click.
It has to click, but sometimes it doesn't, right? And then you get this lineage of family members that's perpetuating this thing, right? Generational curse. And then you see this one family member step outside of that. And then everybody like, he think he better than everybody. Or she thinks she this and she thinks she that, right?
Right.
But really what they're doing is they just stepping outside of that traditional norm that we have as a family, right? And when anytime you see something different or you don't understand, typically you fear it. Right. And then fear, I talked about this a little bit earlier, it's made up too. So there's an acronym for fear that I like. And I think it's like false
evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
And then there's two other ones.
Say it again. So
false evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing real. Right. False evidence appearing real. Okay, go ahead, bro.
And then there's two other ones is two attacks to that false evidence appearing real. You can face everything and rise, or you can fear everything and run, or forget everything and run. So one of the things I really want to touch on is something that I know we do as parents. We want to live vicariously through our kids. And I see that a lot. Yes, with men, but I see it also with women. And sometimes it ain't always the good. The mama wants a daughter to be sexy and cute and everything, or, just outside of their age realm. And one of the things that I tried to instill in my daughter was, don't wear this, don't wear that, because it's going to get you the wrong attention. And I just seen it's an AI generated meme where this little girl was holding onto a Pringle, and I guess that baby may have been 1. She had the high heel shoe on, and it's a cute little girl, and it's a cute little thing. But when you're sexualizing your baby girls, that's not cool. And I say this as a man that has daughters. I would never want to be that father that finds out that's my daughter being sexualized like that, especially by the mother. Because unfortunately, strangle therapy is not legal in any of the 50 states. But if I seen that with the mama, I'm going to jail. I'm gonna go to jail.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you got 3 girls, right?
I have 3 girls.
What's your perspective on this?
My perspective on that, I've been there. I'm the dad that I was too early to be having weave. The braids are too long. We adding too much color in your hair too early. So there's been a push and pull between me and my children's mother for years now. Good thing now my daughter's old enough to where she can be responsible and take on the advice of and make responsible decisions as far as what she's gonna wear and what she's gonna do with her hair and do with her own body. So it definitely is an uphill battle And not a lot of people foresee or live through them. And even on the son side, I've been a father who tried to live through his son. Meaning, I had my son play football, little league all the way up, and I was so hard on him because I was hard on myself when I was playing football, and I excelled at football. So I feel like he should excel at football. And now to this day, he don't like football. He want nothing to do with football. And I fought myself for that.
Yeah.
I feel like I was too hard on him early instead of letting it be fun.
Right.
I knew it required work. So I put the work part first. So it could be on both ends. Mothers want to live through their daughters, fathers want to live through their sons.
I mean, I definitely understand that because I did that with my stepson. He played football. He wanted to be a running back. And I saw his skill sets basically from coaching. Like, okay, yeah, you're big, you're fast. Hand skills weren't that great, and I'm like, dude, you have the perfect size and speed to be a defensive end or, outside linebacker, one of those.
Long arms.
He didn't want to listen. He went out for that running back position, didn't get it. They put him on the B squad. I walked up to the coach one day during the game. I was like, Coach, come here for a second. I said, put him in on defense. That boy was wreaking havoc to that offense. Quarterback couldn't get the ball out of his hand quick enough before he was there. And I was like, see, sometimes daddies do know what's best for their sons, but I didn't want to live vicariously through him. My thing is this. My daughter's a great actress. I'm going to support her on the actress part, right? Another one sings and writes. Another one does makeups and designs bags. Another one is really good with the compassion side, the nursing side of things. So I support them all on these things. I want to make sure that as a dad, I'm there. I'm going to tell you, hey, you great at that. You great at that. You're great at that. And whatever they put their heart behind. But I also say, don't half-ass. Don't half-ass. I want to see you succeed. That's my sole purpose in life is I want to see you succeed. So if daddy got to work 12 hours a day, I'm going to do it.
I think for me, I try my best not to kind of like live vicariously through my kids, even though, and you most definitely as a parent want your kids to do some of the things that you've done, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When I look at my daughter, I was, before I got into basketball, things of that nature, I used to flip a lot. So gymnast type stuff. And I would do this I would say I was like the neighborhood flipper. If that makes sense.
She got it done.
Like I taught myself how to do those things, right? And one thing about me is like when I started doing something, as you said, I gave it my all, right? And so when you give your all into something, people start pouring into you, if that makes sense, because they see that you're giving your all with that. So my daughter, she's in gymnastics and tumbling and things of that nature now. My son was playing basketball and things of that nature, but he's more one of those kids that's more creative, more like this front that we're doing right now with the podcast and things of that nature. Got YouTube channels and things of that nature. So he's doing some of those things. So you see some of those things as far as similarities, and you want them to be great at those things, right? You don't want them to fail. But I think that one, as parents, they have to have somebody in their lives that is head over heels for them about the things that they're passionate about, right? Then two, you got to give them some opportunities to fail and kind of see what they're going to be able to do with those things, right? Yeah. And when you talk about those vicarious moments, I think it's just one of those things that we just really want to see our kids do well, but we don't necessarily know how to do that, right? So then we start pushing things off on them, right? Yeah. And we start quoting some of the same things we heard from our coaches and our parents and those different things, right? But a lot of the times, when you said it, if it feels good to your spirit or not. Like it, right? You see the look on your child's face and things of that nature. And maybe because, your mom or your dad helped you push through that by saying, nah, we ain't doing that. You do the same thing, you perpetuate those things. But I found out, through conversation, right? A lot of times those kids can be able to open up to you because you are their parents and because they trust you so much. They're opening up to you and they letting you know specifically what they do and what they don't want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for us to establish what our morals, our values, and our principles are as parents, and then ask these questions, right? Does this align with our morals?
Mm-hmm.
Does this align with our principles? Meaning, does quitting align with that? I'm just asking my kids these types of questions. Does that align with what we believe in as a family? And then they can kind of make those decisions for themselves. Sometimes they don't come immediately, but they're able to think through their process. And the more we can do things like that in our community and with our kids, I think the better we'll be.
Mm-hmm. Well, even with the going back to the sexualization of our kids, you know, like I said, living vicariously even through that part. The mom sees, oh, my daughter's attractive, so she lets her young teen daughter wear these clothes that me as a father, I'm like, no, don't. She can't wear that. No, she can't wear that. And so, but in the same thing with Day Day, the boys is like, oh, he got two girls, and he's like, yeah, that's my son. But then, you know, if we're trying to raise them with principles, we're like, no, son, you can't have two girlfriends. I can see you dating people, but having two girlfriends ain't so cool, because you wouldn't let your daughter have two boyfriends.
You got something?
Right. And circling back to you of people over sexualizing their daughters. Me personally, I think it's sickening. I think that it makes no sense to me for sex. My daughter was 12. Her mother thought it was okay. Her mother thought it was okay that she wear, you know, the short shorts. What they like to refer to as booty shorts.
Yeah. Strangle therapy.
But this actually goes on a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody don't see it. I don't understand it.
Well, you know, you have a lot of women who want to be more so friends with their children than to be a parent.
I wouldn't just say women.
Well, yeah,
parents.
Fathers too. Parents, okay. Period. You know, they want to be more friends with their children than they want to be a parent. So they want, you know, so they want to be able to hang out together. They want to be able, you know, they want to be able to have the same interests. There's so many times you see mother and daughter in the club together.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's one thing I can say I'm glad about. Even as growing up, I'm grown. I can sit down and drink a beer if I want to. We don't normally sit, and I can point this out with my cousins. They will vouch for it. We don't normally sit down and drink. We may be sitting at another area drinking, even though our parents are sitting right there.
Mm-hmm.
We grown. We could drink, but we're not going to drink with our parents. It's just that's what we do.
I got a different perspective on that. A couple of different perspectives, and I don't know if we're gonna make it to our next topic, but because I got a couple of different perspectives on that. So I think I mentioned to you all before that I come from a really big family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at that family dynamic, there is nothing that we don't do in front of each other.
Mm-hmm. We
follow me on this. Okay, so I have uncles, the elder uncles, right? There is nothing that we don't do each other. Like, for instance, I can have a drink with my uncle, right? And we can have a conversation as we are friends, right? But here's the thing is that I've gotten to the point where I am at the point where I can be friends with them, right? This wasn't the same relationship at 12, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't the same relationship at 6, right? And I couldn't do that with them at 6 and 12, but I could do that, let's say about 25, 30, if that makes sense, right? Because we have went through this process where I have maturated to the point where I'm able to do this at this particular point now. We also have people that are 40 now that has their drink with them, and it gets out of hand, right? And
Right.
we all have these family members, right?
Right.
And so therefore, they are not allowed to have those drinks with certain people and things of that nature in the family, because you know how those things are. I go back, my perspective on that is this, is that when we are looking at the family dynamic and we're looking at things like living vicariously, things of that nature, my question is this: why does the person think that that's okay? That's the question, right? To me, not that I'm going to get into this, and I'm not saying anybody is doing this, but I try to remove myself from an accusatory standpoint and ask this question: why do you think that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you have to wrestle with this rhetorical question of explaining to you why that's okay. Then we go back to what are our family values?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, what are our family values? If the family values are things of Christian morals, things of that nature, honesty, integrity, leading by example, things of that nature. Now, what my next question is going to be: do you think that represents this? Right. And now you have to make a choice. Right. And even after we leave this conversation, guess what's going to be wrestling in your head? The question that I asked you, right? And a lot of the times as men, we think our bravado or our strangle therapy, right, is going to solve the problem. And a lot of times when we do those things, it pushes them even more toward that edge, if that makes sense. Because I know I was one of those kids, like, if you told me not to do something, I want to do that.
Oh, I believe
Right.
it.
I want to do it.
I had the same thing. I had a
Right.
French teacher that told me I would never speak French.
Come on with it.
I remember right after I graduated, I went right back to my middle school and saw him.
Said bonjour, je m'appelle
Yes.
DJ.
I spoke to him not only in French, but in slang, in French. I was like, yeah, don't tell somebody what they can't do.
Absolutely.
I'm one of them people that if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to try to figure a way to get it done.
Absolutely. It's a challenge to me,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
You just ignited that heat in me, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And you about to get it one time.
You bring the dog at it.
Uh-huh. Absolutely, man. Interesting conversation, man. I think a lot of dynamics go into when you're talking about that. I want to get into it. It's still on the same line, but really dive deep into that girl dad. Because all of us here, we've talked about it off the air, right? But just from the perspective of being that girl dad, and what's the difference in between, fathering that girl and fathering that boy, if that makes sense. And I know that Brother Chris, I don't know if you want to add to this conversation right now, but I'm gonna just throw it up in the air and let somebody speak to what the difference is between fathering that girl and fathering that boy is, and get a little more deeper into the dynamics as it relates to parenting.
Well, fathering the girl, mine, some of them were already older, and I could see some of the boys that or men that they had. I can't tell them who is the right person for them. The youngest one, I actually did meet this guy, and I told her a little bit about him and everything. I didn't know that they ended up becoming cool and then started hanging out. And this guy's a great guy. I hand it to him, but it was one of those things of with girls. The youngest one, ooh man, she told me the funniest thing I'd ever heard. Dad, you don't know boys. And that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
it was like, child, the difference between you and that boy, me and your mama, your granddaddies and grandmamas, and Adam and Eve was the technology we used to get in the kitty cat. I mean, to be honest with you, we want to tell you the same story, the same lie, the same lines. So don't think that he isn't telling you the same thing that I told your mama. So you got to understand, men are going to go for the same thing. It's a hunting thing. It's going for the prize. So if you're thinking that, hey, oh well, he's not the same as the rest of the guys. Oh, yes, he is. Some people just know how to hide it better. And see, I'm one of those what we call urban renaissance men. I'm the little bit mama's boy, a little bit thug, a little bit entrepreneur, and a little bit lover, right? So I have girls. God cursed me with the funniest thing ever, because now I got to get all the boys that were like me away from the girl, my daughters. So,
Absolutely.
it's like, man, I felt like a goalie in hockey. It's like the puck is coming from every day.
Great analogy.
I'm like, whoa, chat, puck. So, I mean, I took it because that was what I did to everybody else. And I tell you, God is great at paying you back. He's just. But I did it. I'll admit it. And I said, now I got all these girls. Now I'm trying to protect them from the same thing. But
you're trying to protect them from yourself.
Protect them from the guys that are like me.
Me too. Yeah.
Ooh, that's hard right there.
Yeah.
Boy.
Actively right now.
Yeah. So it was like,
But do they listen? That's the thing.
No.
That's the thing.
Hold on. Did you listen?
No, I didn't. No.
What I've learned is, when you want them to go right, you got to tell them to go left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As for me, when my girls, what it looks like for me is, I'm very upfront, open, blunt, and honest with them. I let them know how I was. I let them know things that the games is gonna be trying to be ran on them.
Yeah.
I let them know. I let them know that some of the games I've ran.
Mm-hmm.
My boy, I can recognize the game he running. I ran it.
Yeah.
I've done it. And I have to remind him. I still remember.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it hadn't been too long ago since I was running the same game you running.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You just got to point out to him, say, look, I understand you playing right now, but I was Jordan. I still want to know your game.
Right, exactly. And I give him some pointers here and now and then. Don't do it. You don't do it like that. This is the way to do it. I've already told him.
Boy, man.
You don't do it like
you
that.
got to do that nowadays, man. You got to give them
they'll crash out.
Hold on. What you doing there,
listen
son?
to what they partners that don't know no more than they know.
Right.
So I mean, I have to. I feel like I have to at least.
Yeah.
But with my girls, man, I just, like you say, the goalie in the hockey play, protecting them from me. I let them know that I'm honest with them about it.
I got a boy and a girl. My boy is 16 and my daughter is 10. And of course they'll be 17 and 11. And there's some things that my daughter is protective of my son about, and my son is protective of my daughter about way before I even get a chance to get to it, if that makes sense. But this is because of the things that me and their mom has instilled into them, right? For instance, and I'm sure like everybody's probably about this way, if that makes sense, but if my son heard anybody say anything about his sister, he ready to fight. Like, touch anything, like, don't do that. Vice versa for her. Like, do not touch my brother. Do not say nothing to my brother, right? But they see that same dynamic between mom and dad. If somebody says something about them, things of that nature. So they pick those things up, right? Because that's my loved one. That's the person that I love, right? So what we try to do is to try to instill some of those things, but it's different. It is a lot different. Like the way I talk to my son is not how I talk to my daughter. But sometimes I do talk to my daughter like that, and she like, "Daddy, why are you talking like that? Right? Like, why you on me like that? Like, because you need to hear this, because there's probably gonna be somebody that come in your life that do something that I don't want you to be new to it, if that makes sense, right? And some of the things that I say to my son is like, man, you just going in on me. He got to the point where, okay, that's good, Dad. I feel what you're saying. And then some of the stuff he brush off, and then some of the stuff my daughter be like, you heard him talking to you, like, you don't understand what he's saying right now, because she pick up on things real quick, like she real subtle, real slick in her deliveries and things of that nature. And my son is like real chill and laid back, like, don't nothing bother me, things of that nature. But as you all alluded to a little bit earlier, like, there are some things that as parents, and then as a father, when I'm fathering them, I have to do a little bit differently, right? I can go to my son and say, hey, why you didn't do X, Y, and Z? He'd be like, I just didn't do it.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, you need to get that done now.
Mhm.
Okay. But if I go to my daughter, I got to be like, hey, is there a reason why you didn't do this? Oh, Dad, I was over here and I was doing this and I was twirling, I was done. You know, she real abstract and things of that nature. And so I have to be cognizant of that so I don't kill that by saying you should have done this and things of that nature. But there is sometimes I have to do that. You know, X, Y, Z, you got to be on point here and there and things of that nature. But I think when it comes to those girls, they eat at your heart a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Because again, we're trying to save them from us.
Mhm.
Right? We know how we was out there in those streets. We know the type of things that we did. We know the game that we ran. We know these things. And then with my son as well, I'm a little bit like that as well because I've also been the victim of some of those things as well, which we don't talk about as men as well. Like we portray this thing like we always had it going on in the streets, but you don't talk about those losses. It's kind of like those drug dealers.
I think the worst thing is when you, as a player, fall in love.
Right.
You fall in love that first time, and that girl does the Spanish hat dance on your heart. The flamenco, yeah.
Right.
I had that one, boy. I swear, I think I lost 15 pounds in a month. I didn't need Weight Watchers. I just had broken heart.
Broken heart, right? That'll get you there quick.
So what'd you do?
The same thing that everybody that's broken does when they get their heart broken. Fool around with a bunch of other women.
Okay.
That's
tap in, huh?
That was the first one. After that, it started to mature a little bit. You know, you get your heart broken and you start sitting there going, you start becoming stoic. And I think that's where I started to realize I matured. I started to ask myself, where did I go wrong in this? You know, and that's why I said I don't always
self-reflection.
I don't always need closure. She ain't got to tell me what I did wrong. I'm gonna find out what I did wrong in my retrospect. And I'm not going to have to worry about telling you what you did wrong. If you ain't figured out, grow up. That's the last thing I can tell you is grow up, because you know that you have done something, especially if I walk away. I'm sort of like when Migo was talking about he wears his heart on his sleeve and he gives people multiple chances. That was me. And then I had to learn. And that's why I said that was the best thing that I ever learned was a reading plan that just said that, you know, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And I said, we know that God can't do anything wrong, but Martin Luther explained it and said, it wasn't that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. God just removed his grace from Pharaoh and Pharaoh's heart hardened. So I said, you know what? Maybe I just need to start removing my grace.
Oh, wow. Okay. So all in all, we got to start normalizing sharing with our sons.
Yeah.
The losses just as well as the wins.
Man.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they learn just as much. I'm gonna tell you this, and maybe we'll hop into that question right quick. But I learned so much from my 7 uncles, my granddaddies, both of them, and my dad by not what to do.
Not what
not what to do, right? You're seeing all these different things going on and the stories that's being told on the porch over the moonshine and things of the nature, and they giving it back and forth, and they were very honest with those things, right? And you learn so much and then you got a lot of people that's like, again, we sit there as youngsters listening to this, and then they jumping in the conversation like, no, this, that, another. I'm listening. I'm eating it up.
Right.
I'm
Soaking
like,
it all in.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do that. Do that. You see what I'm saying? That makes sense. And then you see every last one of your uncles in a different light. So I got 10 different perspectives. I got 2 granddaddies. I got 7 uncles, and I got my daddy. So I'm seeing all these different perspectives. So I get the chance. I'm like, I'm the luckiest kid in the world because I get to learn from all of these folks.
All them different personalities.
All those different personalities. And then, like, for instance, my friends come and they see it, they're like, I see what you're talking about. Like, you get those different perspectives. So they'll gravitate to somebody that's more like them and things of that nature when I'm hitting all of them, right? I'm finding something in all of them that I like this trait about you. I'm going to take that. I don't like that. I'm not doing that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So again, like you can learn what to do by seeing people mess those things up. Like for instance, my mom used to tell me, why you gotta always learn by touching the fire? If I'm telling you the fire is hot. Like, don't make sense to me, right? I'm telling you the fire is hot, but you just gotta touch it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's sometimes that you don't have to learn like that. You can just get the information from somebody, right? And one of those things which I think you can kind of get on this, is a whole nother topic, is ways in which as a community we can save our money a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I heard of something a little bit about last year, like the 10, 10, 10, 70 rule,
Mm-hmm.
where you, of course, 10% goes to your tithes and offering and things of that nature. 10% goes to you, your personal savings, and then 10% what you invest in, and you lived off the 70.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't talking like that in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like strategies and things of that nature. Like if you're brought up doing some of those things, or if we're brought up living vicariously through our kids, those things perpetuate themselves over time. So I think that's something we most definitely got to get on
we
from a
definitely
financial.
need to talk more about finance, because as we talk about, our children are made in our own image, right? One of the things that we
that
talk
took on
about
a different meaning right there
is
for me right there.
we don't teach our kids how to do the right things a lot of times, and we're as you said, we're perpetuating these things over and over and over again. So I'm teaching my children bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm teaching them also the good habits. But if we're not being louder than their friends, then their friends are going to teach them the bad habits that they learned from their parents. Because Winston Churchill said it best. He said, a lie can get halfway around the globe before the truth gets its pants on.
Mm-hmm.
So positivity doesn't spread as quickly as negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we learn is, and I literally did this with my kids, because I had to explain to them about the fact, the girl and the boy. I had to explain to them, I said, y'all don't like my rules. They didn't want to come in at 11 o'clock when I was telling them to come in at 11 o'clock. And I said, I had a bottle of water. I said, y'all want this water? They said, no. Walked in there, picked it back up. I opened it up, started drinking and everything. I said, the funny thing about rules is people don't understand the importance of why we have rules. Now, the first time I had the cap on. Now, the second time I drop it again. Now it's rolling down the hill, right? I grab it again. I pick it up. Now it's lost a lot of water.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, see, when you take a barrier of safety off, what happens is you lose a piece of yourself, right?
Okay.
So then I turned it upside down. And I said, when you have no rules, here's what happens. Now pick that water up. And he looked at me like, I can't pick it up. I said, when you tell me that you don't want me to contain you in something, what you're telling me is you don't want me to be able to carry you to a higher level. I said, because that water's going to run down to the bottom of the hill until it runs itself into the ground. And I said, my job as a parent is to never bury you. It is for you to bury me, because I did everything that was necessary for you to bury me. I don't want to bury you. That's not my job. I don't ever want that on any human being, no parent at all. I don't want to see them bury their children. Right. But when I had that cap on, I'm saying, the Bible, if you follow that Bible, it says, teach your child in the way he should live, that he would never steer too far from it. Or if he does, he would come back to it. So therefore, my thought is this: I'm trying to teach you how to contain yourself.
How to train the flow.
Yeah. But train the flow. If I take the lid off and give you this little bit of room, you're going to lose a piece of you because you're going by the world's thing, right? But if I just let you go and give you no rules to follow, what's going to end up happening is you're going to put yourself in the ground. And that's not what I'm looking for as a parent. Because as I said, once again, I want to see them do the best that they can.
That's crazy. Great analogy. Yeah, give you some snaps for that.
Great analogy.
Great analogy.
I'm definitely
right?
using that one.
Right.
With the bottle of water.
But here's the thing: when they come back and that bottle of water is emptied out, to even be able to go to the next place, they got to fill it back up.
You got to fill it back up.
You got to fill it back up to be able to go back to the next level, because you have to have those things contained in this particular vessel to be able to move to the next stage and things of that life. So, man, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Great analogy, man. You taught us all something tonight. I appreciate that,
I
bro.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, tell you what though, we got email. Okay, so we got a new segment. We calling it Ask a Brother. Okay, so if you got an email question you want to ask us, email us at ltbspodcast@yahoo.com. Let's get into this question. Y'all ready?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get it.
Y'all haven't heard it, right?
Nah, we hadn't heard it.
All right.
I would love to be prepared for
My
this.
heart's
but,
racing a little bit, but I'm
yeah,
ready for
but
it.
All right. I mean, it's
it's a softball or what?
it's softball. I
Okay.
mean,
All
right.
It depends on how fast
Right.
she throwing that softball.
All right, so we're not gonna give no names, okay? Let's just do this. Just Curious says, so when a woman has multiple children by multiple men, over 6 kids, and one of them is yours, and she's struggling to support all of them, do you only take care of yours, or do you even help her at all? For instance, if your kid needs food, are you bringing food for just your child or all of them?
I'm gonna
Let one of y'all speak
I'm
first.
gonna let you speak on that first.
Oh man, I remember there was a video out about some McDonald's. This guy brought McDonald's to only his child, and the woman had other children that had that was hungry as well, and she went off on him. She threw the McDonald's. Hey, nobody, he can't have it. Your child can't have it. Get it out of here, because you ain't bring everybody else some. And there was a big debate. Everybody was up in the uproar. Yeah, so people on both sides. As for myself, at first I was the guy who, I'm just bringing mine something to eat. Now that I've gotten older and matured more, I'm gonna bring everybody something to eat. It won't be all the time, but most definitely, if I'm bringing mine something to eat, and I'm bringing everybody some.
Is there a reason why? I know you said there's a difference between like younger you and now you, right?
Right.
But what was the, I guess you'd say, switch? What made that switch occur?
It happened to me. I was in a position to where my kids have siblings that they care for. Like my son has siblings that are not mine that he cares about.
Right.
And I never want to do anything to cause any division between them.
Mm-hmm.
And once I noticed, he cares about it. He cares about it. That's his sibling. He cares about him.
Yeah.
So of course I don't want to.
And my brother and my sister, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But the younger me, I wasn't as I didn't notice it. It didn't look like that. I was I was being selfish. I was only thinking of me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And my financial responsibility.
Right.
But it goes deeper.
Yep. Before you go through, there's sometimes that financial responsibility also play a part in where you're at financially at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because that's where I was gonna put my spin on that, is that luckily I didn't have to do that so much, because even the daughters that I have, their fathers were somewhat involved. So I didn't have to worry about that as far as the kids. And as far as my daughter's mother, I didn't have to worry about that because she managed, and even the father there he and I had an understanding with those, but I took care of his kids regardless. They were like my kids. So I always take care of any kid. If I'm in a relationship, those kids are my kids. Right. But if I'm not in that relationship, I'm not going to be like, oh no, they can't have nothing from me. I don't care. I will admit, I can be extremely selfish. But in the same aspect, if you're not financially able to take care of all those kids, but your kid calls up and said, Dad, I'm hungry, right? If there's 6 kids, I'm gonna see what I can do, to try to make sure they eat. If it's just buying 2 pizzas for all the kids and just let it be, they're on a financial situation, but I'm not going to say, oh, well, that's my kid ate and everything, especially, when that they have those relationships, they're tight with their siblings. It doesn't take very long for kids to become tight with a sibling.
Right.
So it becomes, okay, do I want to be selfish, be that selfish person and say, okay, I took care of my kid, now go on? Or do I say, okay, I know if he's hungry, they're probably hungry, so let's just get something for everybody.
Yeah.
You have to remember, my kid is gonna give him something anyway.
Yeah.
So if he got a hamburger, he got
a bite in everybody else's.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's still gonna be hurting him at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. I came from one of those eras that my mom, my grandma, anybody could eat anything. So I guess I've never lived in a world where kids didn't eat or kids didn't get what kids needed, whether there's love, whether there's a hug, whether there's water, whether there's watermelon, whatever it was, like kids get what they need. And one of the things that my grandma will always say, that kid didn't do nothing to be put in that situation. So therefore, whatever the adults got going on, the kid is not about to suffer from that on my watch, if that makes sense. So therefore, one of the things that I do, for instance, is I try to every year go back to my hometown in Memphis on my street and do some type of barbecue and things of that nature. And it does not matter if you contributed, adult, from baby all the way up to adult. It does not matter. If you come on Parker Road that day, you get to eat.
Parker Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you come on Parker Road that day, you get to eat. Now, this happens probably every week, right? And so therefore, when I've gotten to Texas that I do this with people here, they kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't contribute. They didn't do this. It doesn't matter, because this is kind of one of those things that I say that we learn from our parents, things of that nature, and it perpetuates itself. Well, this is who I am. I perpetuate this, right? So therefore, just like we came here today, what were they saying? It's some peach cobbler over there, baby. Go ahead and get you some, right?
Yeah.
That's just something that's kind of like in me as well. And I understand that, right? And if it's a kid, most definitely they finna get whatever they want. I'm gonna fill that little tummy up.
Yeah, because
I'm gonna make sure they straight.
I used to do the same thing. I used to pick my little cousins up, bring them over to my house. I told them, I said, I'm gonna cover y'all all the way up to 16, and then I might help you out a little bit above 16, but after that, y'all on your own. I mean, I would feed them, I bring them over, we hang out, we, go fishing, shoot pool, whatever it is, because it's a community thing.
Right. So going back to that community, like, all of us are who we are because of all of us. You know what I'm saying? Well, like, you got something, bro.
Right. I wanted to keep in mind that everybody wasn't raised like that.
I absolutely. Right. I have to understand that as well, right?
Yeah.
Because when I look at it from perspective, I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but it doesn't make sense to me that people wasn't raised like that. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that you don't help your fellow man. Like, I don't understand that, because everybody on my street did the same thing that I did. Like, my little cousin Chris, which is really not my cousin, but is my little cousin, my little brother, his mama did the same thing for me. Mario up the street, his mama did the same thing for me, right? Miss Day up the street, she did the same thing for me, right? So if you didn't have something, you never knew you didn't have nothing, right? You never knew that, because the community took care of everybody, right? When Miss Clay cooking my grandmama, go tell Miss Day and them to come and get them a plate. Come on down here, get them a plate, get full, and you sit down there, you talk with them, you conversate with them, you understand where they come from, their perspective, right? And then when Miss Day cooking, go tell Miss Clay to come get a plate. Does Red want a plate too? Who want a plate? Come on, get you a plate, right? They cooking enough. right? When you cooking collard greens and beans and all that type of stuff and cornbread, it's enough to go around, right? And the love is you feel the love in the food, right? You taste the love in the food, right? It tastes a whole lot different, right? It hit different, as the kids say now. It hits totally different, right? And we just have always been one of those communities where when we get a little liquid courage or we get a little food, the conversation gets even better. Right. We get a little liquid courage and get a little food, it gets even better. Why? Because we can understand that somebody put their time, their love, their dedication into serving you and putting this information out, putting this food out there for you and preparing it for you and serving it to you in a way. So when I see stuff like that, like the question that whoever asked this, like, I'm like, why are we thinking like that? Like from their perspective, like I got plenty of cousins and uncles and things of that nature. I'm not, privileged to have any stepkids or anything of that nature, but I got plenty of them to have there. Guess what? When they come, everybody get fed. When they go take stuff to their kid, everybody get it.
Yeah.
Like that's their kids. Everybody get it. Right. Everybody eat. Guess what they call them? Hey, y'all hungry? They ain't saying you hungry. Y'all hungry? And if the kid call and say, I want something to eat, what about them other? What about your brothers? Like they asking them because they teaching them.
Right.
Like you got to be the one because they ain't seen that.
Well,
those other kids hadn't seen that.
What it is in that wolf pack thing. If the one wolf takes something down, then the whole pride eats. The whole pack eats. It's not, oh, well, this is mine. Y'all get off. It's everybody eats because we all hunted together. So as a family unit, even though you may not be the biological to all of it, that is still part of his pack. And he's going to want to make sure that pack eats.
And maybe that person, the father, before it did that, they don't understand why this person is doing it like that, if that makes sense. Right. They so used to the person and I'm just giving an example. If you've been in a relationship and you've taken care of all the bills and you cut the grass all the time and you make sure the cars are gassed up and things of that nature. And for some unfortunate reason, y'all end up, let's say, divorcing or not together anymore. When she get with this other person, they not doing it. It's like, damn. It's like a shock. Like, what you mean you ain't gonna? Like, I'm used to this occurring. That's they can't fathom that, right? So therefore, this new person has to align with these things that I'm used to, and maybe they're not aligned in that way. Maybe they just, and there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, of that person just only wanting to feed their son or their daughter as well, because maybe that's all they can do at this point. But as we can see right here on this show today, we have a person that had evolved to the point where I was this, and now I am that. Right. So that's an example that anything is possible.
Anything is possible. And what I heard you describe was a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like y'all take care of each other.
Yep.
I see neighborhoods that don't nobody speak to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody know each other.
Yeah.
Nobody speaking and waving. So there very well could be a kid who feel like, oh, I'm all alone. A person who feel like, oh, I'm all alone in this. If I'm hungry right now, you can't go up the street and ask nobody.
How do you feel in those type of neighborhoods? Because apparently you may have been in one of them. You say you've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen them.
How do you feel in those neighborhoods?
I don't know how you feel in those neighborhoods.
I think for me, I've always been that person, like, when I don't like something, I say something.
Yeah.
Right? So now, but I don't say nothing by, we shouldn't be doing this. I say something about doing what we should be doing. Right? So if I'm in the neighborhood and ain't nobody speaking, I'm coming out. Hey, John, how you doing? Such and such, how you doing? How you doing? This, that, and that. Because I'm going to start it up like I'm whatever the community needs me to be, or whatever this show needs me to be. Whatever is not, that's what I'm trying to add, if that makes sense. So God puts you in a position a lot of the times where you sitting here looking at it like, I want this to be better. He telling you, it can be. Yeah. Go ahead.
Make it better.
Make it better. Right. He putting you in that position to go ahead and do it, right? And you sitting there talking like, man, I wish this could be better. this, that, and the other. And you really
Mhm.
talking to yourself, trying to encourage yourself to
Yeah.
go ahead and do those things,
Yeah, it's
right?
already speaking in the back.
It's
It's speaking in the back right there. Saying,
Yeah.
just do it. Don't wait for somebody else to do it.
Right.
You know, I understand that.
Absolutely.
Like
So
the shirt says. Just do it.
Just
just do it. Hey,
Just
that's a
do it.
good one to end it on right there.
All right.
Just do it.
Well, that was Ask a Brother. Again, if you got a question you want to ask the brothers, email us ltbspodcast@yahoo.com. And on that, we're going to call this a wrap. And we're going to end it right there. And want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. Again, I wanted to ask you to follow us, like us, share us, tell a friend and tell a friend and tell another friend and hit that thumbs up button. Okay. And also feel free to, again, email us. All right. It's never, get your question asked. Like I said, we'll if we don't get to it in the next episode, we gonna get to it because the email is getting full. Okay, so get your questions in. All right, we may just have a show coming up here where we just answering all questions. Because we tried to get to 2 tonight, but the conversation got kind of thick.
Absolutely.
So, all right, and on that, we're gonna say good night, and we will see you all next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.
All right.
Good night, man.